Good morning, friends. I'm Sunita Fadkule, Professor in Mechanical Engineering at JSPM Jayavant Rao Samant College of Engineering, Hadapsar, Pune. Today, we are going to start unit number 4. That is, topic is balancing. Okay, today, this is my video lecture number 29. Today, we are going to see the introduction and theory of balancing. Okay, what is the learning outcome? You will be able to understand the theory of balancing and applications of balancing. Now, what is the syllabus content? So you are going to learn static and dynamic balancing, balancing of rotating masses in single and several planes, then primary and secondary balancing of reciprocating masses, then balancing in single cylinder engine, multi-cylinder engine, direct and reverse crank method, and radial and V engine. So this is the total syllabus of unit number 4. So this is the course outcome of unit number 4. That is, you will be able to apply balancing technique for static and dynamic balancing of multi-cylinder inline and radial engines. Okay. So what is the recap what we have learned in first 3 units? In unit number 1, 2 and 3, we have learned undamped and damped free vibrations, force vibrations and 2D-wave vibrations. Okay. In this unit, we will learn one of the major cause of vibrations, that is unbalanced force, and how to remove that unbalanced force. Then types of unbalance and how to balance the system. Okay. So introduction. Now see why balancing is necessary. Okay. You know that day by day the speed of machineries, engines, turbines, aeroplane, train, you take anything, it is day by day increasing. We require to run all the machineries at higher speed. Okay. So all these machineries, they involve revolving and reciprocating parts. And you can imagine if these parts are not completely balanced, okay, then what can happen? Because of this unbalance of the parts, it will create dynamic forces. And because of these dynamic forces, that is nothing but in reciprocating engine, these are the inertia forces. Due to inertia forces, unbalance is created in the reciprocating machineries and in rotary machineries because of the eccentricity, because the rotors are not mounted exactly, you can say symmetrical. That means CG of the rotor is not matching with the or not falling on the axis of the rotation of the shaft, then the unbalance will be created. So what this unbalance will do, this will create the dynamic load, which will increase the stresses in the members. And in the design, you have to consider the dynamic load also. And there is the possibility of unpleasant and noisy noise, and even the dangerous vibrations may set up these forces. So we know that in first 3 units we have learned what is the vibrations and how dangerous it can be near the resonant condition. So this unbalance is one of the major cause of the vibration. So we must learn it, and we must learn how to remove this unbalance in rotary masses and reciprocating masses. So balancing is necessary, especially in high-speed applications. So what are these applications? See, rotary parts are always there in many heavy machineries or even light machineries. Even if you take home appliances, say mixer, okay, or washing machine or fans, there are rotary parts. So these rotary parts must be balanced. Okay. So for example, electric motors, generators, turbines, pumps, machine tools, then aircraft, paper mills, different machineries in textile industry, sugar industries, then blowers, whereas domestic applications, all these machineries require balancing. Okay. So now what do you mean by balancing? Okay. So it is nothing but the process of designing and modifying machineries so that unbalance is reduced to certain acceptable level. It may not be completely possible to remove the unbalance, but it should be reduced to an acceptable level. Okay, so balancing is also defined as that it is a technique of correcting or eliminating unwanted inertia forces and moments in rotating machineries. Okay, so in the design of machineries, we have to consider these dynamic forces for design the different parts of the machineries. Okay, so basically see why this unbalance is occurring, and when we produce the parts, okay, tolerances are there, but when we try to achieve as close as possible to the tolerances, it will increase cost, it will increase time, it will increase say labor cost also. So it is not preferable that to completely or to balance the parts completely when it is produced. Okay, rather when the parts are produced, those are as accurate as possible. Okay, but after that, if unbalance is there, dynamic balancing machines are there, static balancing machines are there, we are going to balance these parts, and then only these can be used in our machineries. Okay, so in this study of balancing, determining the unbalance and applications of corrections is the principal problems in the study of balancing. So this unit is completely analytical. There is no theory. Whatever is the theory required to solve those problems, that much only theory is there. Okay, so now balancing is classified as follows. There are three types of, basically there are only two types of unbalance: rotary unbalance and reciprocating unbalance. That means balancing of rotating masses and balancing of reciprocating masses. And when you combine these two, rotary and reciprocating masses, that will become third category, that is combined rotating and reciprocating masses. So what is important in balancing of rotating masses? So balancing of rotating masses can happen in single plane or in different planes. Okay, and balancing of reciprocating masses. Okay, these two types are there, or these two we have to learn: primary force and couple, secondary force and couple. Okay, so initially we are going to study balancing of rotating masses in first 3-4 lectures, and after that we will go to reciprocating unbalance. Okay, so part A is balancing of rotating masses. Okay, now if you consider this diagram, see this is say any rotor is there. Okay, now see here, this is the CG. Okay, that means it has certain eccentricity from the geometric center of the rotor. So this is geometric center of rotor, and this is CG of the rotor. Okay, that means if CG of the rotor is not matching with the geometric center of the rotor, that is nothing but the eccentricity E. Okay, so when this rotor rotates, what happens? See, it will create the centrifugal force. See here in this diagram. So this is the rotor, suppose, or shaft, which is rotating with angular velocity omega, and it is having this rotor, maybe pulley, okay, or gear, and this CG is not falling on the axis of the shaft. It is at a distance of E. Okay, so what will happen? This will, when this rotor will rotate or shaft will rotate, it will create the unbalanced force, and that is nothing but the centrifugal force. You know, m r omega square, or here it is m, that is mass of the this rotor, and E into omega square, speed of the shaft. So m r omega square or m e omega square is nothing but the unbalanced force. Okay, so here, what is the magnitude of unbalanced force? So if CG of a rotating component of a machine, such as flywheel or rotor of an alternator, does not lie on the axis of rotation, there is a centrifugal force which is given by Fc is equal to mr omega square or me omega square. Okay, where m is the mass of rotating component, omega is the angular velocity of the rotating element, and r or e is the eccentricity. Okay, so how, see here, if why higher speed is we have to take care of higher speed of machineries, because the centrifugal force, which is nothing but the unbalanced force, is proportional to the square of the omega. So if speed increases, centrifugal force will be double of that one. Okay, so that means square of this one. So that's why it is very dangerous to run the machineries at if unbalance is present in the system. We have to remove that unbalance. Okay, so now these rotating machineries, you can say the center line. See here, whatever I have told you in this diagram, it is given principal inertia axis, and this is the geometric center that we have seen. Now directly we will go to the causes of unbalance. Okay, so what are the causes of unbalance? I told you that in the design of rotating parts of the machinery, every care is taken to eliminate any out of balance couple or force. Okay, but some residual unbalance is always left in the finished part. Okay, so what are the reasons? Slight variation in the density in the material, or inaccuracies in the casting, or inaccuracies in the machining of the parts. Okay, so why balancing is so important? A level of unbalance that is acceptable at low speed is completely unacceptable at a higher speed. Okay, because Fc is equal to mr omega square. See, as machines get bigger, that means if n increases and go faster, that means as omega increases, the effect of unbalance is much more severe. Okay, so unbalanced force increases rapidly if m is larger and say omega is larger. The force caused by unbalance increases by the square of the speed, that is omega square. Okay, and if the speed is double, the force quadruples because it is omega square, and the speed is triple, the force increases by a factor of 9 because it's a square of omega. Okay, so we are seeing what is mean by unbalance. Now what is balancing? Okay, so already I told you it is a technique of correcting or eliminating unwanted inertia forces or moments in rotating and reciprocating masses. Okay, and it is achieved by changing the location of mass centers. So the objectives of balancing an engine are to ensure that the CG of the system remains stationary during a complete revolution of the crankshaft. Okay, and the couples involved in the acceleration of the different moving parts balance each other. So remember, you have to take care about the forces and about the couples. So there should not be unbalanced couple and there should not be unbalanced force. Okay, so based on these forces and couples, there are two types of balancing: static balancing and dynamic balancing. Okay, what do you mean by static balancing? It is the balance of forces only, whatever is there due to action of gravity. Okay, so body is said to be in static balance when its CG is in the axis of rotation, when it falls on the axis of rotation. So what will happen? That time summation of forces is equal to 0. So when you balance all the forces, that is the static balancing. Okay, now what do you mean by dynamic balancing? It is a balance due to action of inertia forces. Okay, and a body is said to be in dynamic balance when the resultant moments and couples which involve in the acceleration of the different moving parts is equal to 0. That means, what's the equation here? Summation of couple is equal to 0. And remember, very important thing, when you balance the couples, automatically forces are balanced. So that means dynamic balancing is very, very important for any rotary machinery. Okay, so if you dynamically balance the system, automatically static balancing will occur. Okay, so if conditions of dynamic balance are met, the conditions for static balance are automatically met. Okay, now today we are going to study balancing of single revolving mass in different way. Okay, so there are different 4 cases are there. So what is the case 1 we are going to study? Balancing of a revolving disturbing mass by a balanced mass revolving in the same plane. Now see, we have to imagine that there is an unbalanced system and we have to balance it. Okay, so suppose unbalance is there. So what is the unbalanced force? It is nothing but the centrifugal force we have seen. So it is F is equal to mr omega square. Okay, now this force radially acts outward. See here. Okay, so this is your unbalanced mass. Okay, and this creates unbalanced force in the outward direction. See, this is side view. Now forget about this one. Imagine only this mass. Okay, we have seen in this diagram. Now, every time we cannot see the show the rotor. So in this diagram, we have seen that any rotor is there, maybe flywheel or gear or pulley. Okay, and if it is having unbalance, it will create the unbalanced force mr omega square. Okay, so this is the front view and side view. Okay, so imagine this is the mass, unbalanced mass, and this is the eccentricity R1. Okay, now E is called as R1. So M1 is unbalanced mass at a distance R1 from axis of shaft. Okay, so this is front view and this is side view. Okay, so in order to counteract the disturbing force, a counter mass may be placed in the same plane of rotation such that the centrifugal force due to revolving of this balanced mass is equal and opposite to the centrifugal force due to disturbing mass. Now see, we have to balance this mass. So either you have to remove it or add extra mass of the which will create the same centrifugal force in this plane only. Okay, now see, this is revolving. Okay, so that's why in the side view it has been shown like this. So what is the force created by this mass? Suppose here mr omega, m1 r1, omega is the speed, so omega square. So if I attach another mass which is known as a balancing mass m2 at a radius r2, okay, what force it will create? Centrifugal force in this direction, outward direction, m2 r2 omega square. Okay, now see, m1 r1 omega square balance by m2 r2 omega square. Okay, so that means unbalanced force has been removed. So now here instead of I have called it m2 as a mb. So mb is the balancing mass in kg, rb is the distance of cg of balanced mass from axis of shaft. That means I have called this is as mb and this is as rb. Okay, so what is the centrifugal force due to balance mass then? FB is equal to MBRB omega square. Okay, so equating these two means centrifugal force created by unbalanced mass, okay, M1R1 omega square, and centrifugal force created by the balanced mass which we have provided, we have attached separately. So FB is equal to MBRB omega square. So equating these two, what we get? MBRB is equal to M into R. Okay, that means product of MBRB may be split in any convenient way. Okay, you have to just take care that MBRB must be equal to M into R because we have to provide this mass. Okay, so what will happen if you take larger mass? RB will be smaller. If you take smaller mass, RB will be larger. So that depends. So usually we prefer smaller mass so that RB will be larger. Okay, so then this system will be free from any dynamic bending stresses also because there is a no unbalanced force. So this was the case 1. Now what is case 2? Balancing of the revolving disturbing mass by balancing masses in different planes which are parallel to the plane of rotation of the disturbing mass. Okay, imagine this system now. So this is the front view and this is the side view. Side view is always tell you the angular position of the masses. Okay, 0 to 360 angular position. So this is your mass, again same mass which is having at a distance of r. Okay, so this is the unbalanced mass. Okay, now sometimes it is difficult to provide the balanced mass exactly in the same plane. Then what we can do, you can provide two masses in the different planes at a distance L1 and at a distance L2. Okay, see in the side view. So this is your unbalanced mass. Okay, and here there are these two masses. See, this is the side view. That's why it is in the same plane. Otherwise, these are means along. This is the length of the shaft. So along the length, okay, it will be here and it will be here. But when you see side view, it will look like in a same line only. Okay, so let M1 be at a radius R1 and M2 be at a radius R2. Okay, so what centrifugal force it will create now? See, for complete balancing, what you have to take care now? What should be the, how will you select M1 R1, M2 R2? See, centrifugal force must be balanced as well as couples must be balanced because see, now this is not in single plane. There are three different planes. Planes of this M1, plane of this M2 and plane of this unbalanced mass M. Okay, so you have to take care that forces should also be balanced and couples should also be balanced. So how will you write down the summation of forces is equal to 0? Actually unbalanced force is mr omega square. Okay, this you have to remove by applying two masses. So what centrifugal force they will create? The summation of these two forces must be equal to unbalanced force. So mr omega square is equal to mb1 rb1 omega square plus mb2 rb2 omega square. Now see, omega is common because all masses are mounted on the same shaft. Okay, so you can cancel out omega. So what is remaining? M into r is equal to mb1 rb1 plus mb2 rb2. Okay, this condition you have to fulfill so that your unbalance will be removed. Now this is the force balance. Now for couples to be balanced, taking moment about the reference plane, say at M, you can take reference, you can take moment about any plane. Now what do you mean by reference plane? That we are going to see further. Okay, so this is your M plane. What will happen if you take the moment about M plane? Moment by this M1 is 0 because it is passing through this axis. Moment of this mass will be like this, anti-clockwise. Okay, so what is the force? mr omega square into L1 is the moment about this one. Now it is anti-clockwise, must be equal to moment created by this force about the same plane, reference plane M. So what is the force created by M2? M2 you can say M2 R2 omega square into how much is this distance? L. Okay, so see here, distance is, okay, I have taken the moment about this plane M, so that see, this M1 into M1 R omega square into L1 must be equal to, or M2 R2 omega square into L2. Okay, so this one, M1 taking moment about say M, here only we have taken. Okay, correct. So mr omega square into L1 must be equal to M2 r omega square into L1 plus L2. I have not written L, I have just written L1 plus L2 because we have to separately find out L1 and L2. Okay, so see, mr omega square into L1 must be equal to mb2 rb2 omega square into L1 plus L2. So cancel again omega square. So M1 R L1 is equal to MB2 RB2 L1 plus L2. So from this you can find out MB2 RB2 MRL upon L1 plus L2. Okay, see, M and R are already known to you. You have to find out MB2 and RB2. Product is important. It is not important to find out separate value of MB2 and RB2. That is in designer's hand. You can decide. If you take smaller M, R will be larger. If you take larger N, R will be smaller. Okay, so for us, product is only important. Okay, now similarly, you can find out MB1, RB1 by taking moment about this N, this plane. Okay, so when you take moment about this plane, the moment by M2 is 0. What's the moment of M? Force is mr omega square into L2. It is clockwise. And moment of this anti-clockwise. So this must be equal to this to balance the couples or balance the moment. So mr omega square into L2 must be equal to M1 R1 omega square into L1 plus L2. Okay. So instead of M1, I am calling it as a MB1. Okay. So see here, second your equation is, writing same equation, we will get MB1 RB1 is equal to MRL2 upon L1 plus L2. Okay. Don't worry, don't remember this equation. We are going to solve the problem and same procedure we have to follow. Okay. So you will understand everything when you will solve the problem. Okay. So this was case 2. That means you can balance the mass by providing two masses at different planes. Okay. Now what is the third case? Balancing of several masses revolving in the same plane. Okay. See, this is the case. So these are different cases. Okay. So M1 is there, M2 is there, M3 is there. Okay. M4 is there. So there are 4 unbalanced masses. Okay. So and all are acting at the same cross section of the shaft, you can say same cross section. Okay, so how to balance this? This will create unbalance. No, M is because this M1 will create FC1 centrifugal force, M2 will create FC2, M3 will create FC3, M4 will create FC4. Okay, and now what is the resultant of this force? See, this is the resultant. Okay, and when you provide the force exactly opposite to the resultant, you will balance this system. Okay, now there are two methods for this one. So let us read balancing of several masses. Okay, so number of masses are there, M1, M2, M3, M4 at a corresponding radius R1, R2, R3, R4 and at a corresponding angles theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4. See, all these masses are at an angle from say positive x-axis, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4, etc. Okay, so all this is known to you. So there are two methods to find out the unbalance here. Okay, one is graphical method and other is the analytical method. So what happens, see, this is in graphical methods means you have to just draw the vector diagram, that is force polygon. Remember, though it is a vector diagram, it is very, very simple. So what you how to draw vector diagram now? See, this you know, this for you know this direction, theta 1 you know, R1 you know, M1 you know. So draw the force vector FC1 in this direction. So AB will represent a vector parallel to this one. The magnitude is M1 R1 omega square and direction is this parallel to this one. So you have to draw the vector parallel to FC1, that is AB. Then FC2, you know magnitude M2 R2 omega square. So this represent magnitudes and this represent direction from B to C, FC2. Similarly, you have drawn FC3. Similarly, you have drawn FC4 in the respective directions. Now you are here. Initially, you are here at point A. Now you are here. So this much amount of unbalance is there. So when you join this E to A, that is the resultant. Okay, so this R is nothing but the unbalanced force. See, in this direction, this is your in this direction, this is the direction. So here if you provide a mass, okay, of MB at a radius RB, it will create centrifugal force MB RB omega square. Then that will balance the system. Understood? So graphically you have to just do that. You have to close the polygon and closing side will represent the centrifugal force, which is nothing but the unbalanced force. That much you have to provide to balance the system. Understood? Okay, so this is very simple method, graphical method. Okay, so all these steps are given in this graphical method. Now what you do in analytical method? See, all these parts, okay, I will explain you here only. Okay, see, whatever the centrifugal forces are there in different direction, resolve every centrifugal force in the horizontal direction, vertical direction. That means FC1, this is cos theta 1, vertical component FC1 sin theta 1. For FC2, vertical component is there, its horizontal component is 0. For FC3, what is horizontal component? Okay, FC3 into cos theta 3, vertical component is FC3 sin theta 3. Like this, resolve all the four forces into sine and cos, that is horizontally and vertically. Okay, so sum of the horizontal component is M1 R1 cos theta 1 plus M2 R2 cos theta 2. So this is the summation of all the horizontal component of forces. Then take the sum of vertical component of the forces. So it is horizontal component, that is summation of horizontal component, summation of vertical component, and then you add it vectorially because one is vertical, one is horizontal. Add it vectorially, that will give you resultant force. So resultant force is equal to square root of summation of horizontal components plus summation of vertical components. That will give you resultant direction of the unbalanced force. Apply, say, balance the mass or provide the mass in this of this magnitude at this direction theta. How will you find out direction theta? Okay, that summation of M1 R1 sin theta upon summation of M1 R1 cos theta 1. Okay, see here. So you will get the same force, that is same balancing mass FC. Understood? So this is the analytical method. Of course, avoid analytical method that involves too much equations. Graphical method is very, very simple. Okay. Now, very important part is reference plane. Okay. So we have seen that, see what is the concept of reference plane. We'll see the definition first, that I will explain you. So it is not always convenient to balance a rotating mass in the plane of rotation that we have seen. So it can be balanced by a mass acting in a different plane by transferring the rotating masses in which the balance mass is put. That plane is known as a reference plane. For example, now I know you have not understood anything by reading the definition. I will explain you. See, here is the unbalanced mass M at a distance R. Okay. Now we have to balance the system. Okay. So you can provide the mass here. Okay, that will exactly balance mr omega square is equal to mbrb omega square. But if I want to balance this system by providing mass in any other plane, that plane is known as, say, reference plane. So I want to shift this mass here without disturbing the system. What I can do, if I provide equal mass is equal to this m, okay, in the opposite direction, means suppose here one is upward, other is downward. Okay, so F1 is the force created by M1 R1 omega square. So same force will be created by M, that is F1 upward, F1 downward, F2 downward. This will not disturb my system because I have provided equal masses opposite to each other. Okay, so now you can imagine this mass has been shifted here. Okay, now there are three masses. Mass M, original mass, M1 mass, M2 mass. Okay, exactly equal and opposite. M1 and M2 are equal to M, and R is also equal to this R1 and R2, and omega is same only. Okay, now imagine what force this will create, mr omega square. This will be M1 R1 omega square, and this will be M2 R2 omega square downward. Now you can imagine, see, look to my hand. For left, this mass, okay, this mass is created force upward, and this M2 will be created downward. So this will create a couple, clockwise couple, okay, like this. So this component, this force and this force will create clockwise couple, okay, and it remains only force here. Same force mr omega square. So what I did, by putting masses here equal and opposite, I have shifted this unbalanced mass into this plane. But what it has happened, the unbalanced mass is there, but additional couple is introduced, that is of magnitude mr omega square into L. What is the magnitude of this couple? Mr omega square into distance between these two planes, that is nothing but the L. Okay, so this couple, every time we have to draw the couple. Now this couple should also be balanced, no? Then and then only your system will be completely balanced. As we have seen in the dynamic balancing, for couples must also be balanced, then and then only system will be completely balanced. Okay, so the effect of transferring the rotating mass in the reference plane is to produce a centrifugal force of the same magnitude as that produced by rotating mass, and the couple whose magnitude is equal to the product of centrifugal force and the distance of the reference plane of rotation from the disturbing mass. Okay, so this we have seen. So what is this couple? mr omega square into L. Okay, so like this is the concept of reference plane. So many times a reference plane word will be coming to your problem. Without reference plane, you cannot solve the problem without this word. So understand the concept. I will again explain. You can take this reference plane anywhere, because anyway that depends on your L only, no? How much couple has to be produced. Okay, so reference plane can be anywhere along the length of the shaft. Okay, so you can imagine that this mass can be shifted on this reference plane. Okay, now fourth case is the balancing of several masses in different planes. This is the last case. Okay, again, so now here you have to imagine this system. See here, what is the difference in third system? In earlier system, all the masses were in the same plane. See this one, what is the difference in this and this diagram? Here, this was the third case where all the masses were in the same plane. There were different masses, see here, but all were along the same cross section of the shaft. Okay, that's why only force polygon was necessary, because once you balance the forces, couple would be automatically balanced because all are acting on the same cross section. What is the fourth case now? All these four masses, one is acting here, other is acting here, other is like this. This is your case number 4. So that is several masses acting in different planes. Okay. So again, you can imagine there are say 3-4 masses. See here, M1, M2, M3, M4. 4 unbalanced masses are there. Okay. And then these are the angular positions at theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4. Okay, these are the distances from any one reference plane. You can say L1, L2, L3. Okay, now here the you can take the balancing in single plane also or in 2 planes also. Okay, so let us see first. So if there are number of masses M1, M2, M3 rotating at different radii R1, R2, R3 at a distance L1, L2, L3 from the reference plane. Okay, so each of these can be transferred to a reference plane. Now remember, we have to take only one reference plane, and to that plane we have to shift all these masses. So in the first instant, these transference will produce the centrifugal forces F1, F2, F3 in the reference plane. You know, there are forces are also there and couples are also there. So the magnitude of these forces are proportional to M1R1, M2R2, M3R3 because omega square is same for all the forces. In order to balance these forces, a force polygon may be drawn whose sides are proportional to M1R1, M2R2 and M3R3. So the closing side of the polygon will be given by MBRB. Okay, that is the product of balance mass and the radius. So this can be conveniently split. So what is the first condition of balancing? Summation of forces must be balanced, that is summation of MR is equal to 0. This is your first condition. Okay, now there are couples also, I told you. So the transference of rotating masses shall also produce couples. What is the magnitude of couple? By first mass, F1 into L1, that is M1 R1 omega square into L1, F2 into L2, F3 into L3. The magnitude of these couples are proportional to M1 R1 L1, M2 R2 L2, M3 R3 L3. Okay, respectively. Now, according to convention, the couples can be drawn, represented by the vectors drawn in the planes perpendicular to those which they act. Okay, so that means the couple will be either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Okay, but for convenience, in the present case, all couples can be drawn parallel to the rotating masses themselves. Now, what is the meaning of this one? That I will explain you later on. Or okay, let us see here. What is the polygon of the couples can be drawn, and the closing side will give the magnitude of the couple, hence rotated by 90 degree. And the second condition for balancing will be summation of couple is equal to 0. That is summation of M into R into L is equal to 0. Now, what's the meaning of this one? See, couple is acting either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Okay, so when I keep my hand, right hand, in the direction of couple, suppose it is an anti-clockwise couple. So I have to hold my fingers in the direction of acting couple, and my thumb, see, my thumb will indicate the vector direction. Okay, now see, if I imagine this is the shaft and this is a reference plane and this is the unbalanced mass. Now, if it is creating the say unbalanced the couple like this in the clockwise direction, I have to hold my hand in the clockwise direction, that means fingers. So the this thumb will be showing the vector. I have to draw on the plain paper this vector now to represent this couple. Now see, this is in the on the plain paper, this will represent a point. You cannot draw it. So what I will do, I will shift it by 90 degree like this. Okay, so all the couples will be shifted by 90 degree so that you can draw it on the line. Okay, now see, this is your force direction, and I am drawing the couple in the couple also in the same direction. Okay, vector, couple vector. So all the couples are rotated by 90 degree. Of course, if you don't remember, don't understand, no, please leave it. That is nothing important from exam point of view. Only the thing is that your concept should be clear. That's why I'm explaining. Okay, so all the couples can be rotated by 90 degrees so that you can represent the vector on the plain paper. Okay, and we have to show like that only. We don't have to again shift it to the original one, because all the couples are shifted. So that means you can imagine the complete couple diagram is rotated by 90 degree. It doesn't make any difference. Okay. So I think this is where we were. When several masses revolve in different planes, they may be transferred to the reference plane. And this reference plane is a plane passing through a point on the axis of rotation and perpendicular to the plane, perpendicular to the mass. Okay. So when a revolving mass in one plane is transferred to a reference plane, its effect is to cause a force of same magnitude to the centrifugal force of revolving mass to act in the reference plane along with the couple of magnitude equal to the product of the force and the distance between the two planes. As we have seen, this is the couple and this is the force. Okay, that is only written in the wording here. Now, in order to have a complete balance of the several revolving masses in the different planes, the forces in the reference plane must be balanced. That is, resultant force must be zero. That is only your first condition. Summation of MR is equal to 0. Okay. Then the couples about the reference plane must balance. That the resultant couple must be 0. This is the second condition. Summation of MRL must be equal to 0. So these two are the conditions for balancing. Okay, complete balancing. Mass placed in the reference plane may satisfy the first condition, but the complete balance is satisfied only by two forces of equal magnitude in the different planes. Okay, thus in general two planes are needed to balance a system of rotating masses. It is not compulsory that only two planes are needed. You can balance by single plane also. For example, where we use two planes, suppose there are two bearings, the shaft is mounted on the two bearings and the unbalanced mass is there, then you can imagine that two planes at two different bearings, left hand side bearing, right hand side bearing, you can imagine the reference planes there, and you can provide the say masses or forces at the bearing plane, at these two reference plane. Okay, so whatever the unbalance is there, that can be taken up by the bearing reactions. Okay, so this is the example. Of course, I'm not going to go detail in this example because this is theoretical example. I'm sure you will not understand, but I will just go through quickly so that the same procedure you can understand when we will solve the problem. Okay, all the problems are having the same typical procedure. That's why this unit is very, very simple. Okay, so imagine these are the masses, these are the different planes. Okay, so then these are the different lengths are there. So what are the two conditions you have to take care? So like this table you have to prepare. It's very simple table, and typical table is there for every problem. First table is first column is of plane, second is mass, third is radius, fourth is centrifugal force, fifth is distance from the reference plane, and sixth is the couple. And also seventh is also there, that is the theta. Okay, we are going to add theta also here. So this is just a procedure. Okay, this is the couple polygon, this is the force polygon. See what is the conclusion of this one. Initial point is here, your final point is here, closing side will give you the balancing couple. In the same force, in this diagram also, this was your initial point, this is the final point. Just join these two, that will give you your force polygon. That is a closing side will give you the balance force. Okay, so like this is the theory of balancing. Okay, don't worry, from the next problem we are going to solve the problems and you will understand everything. Okay, thank you very much. I will close this topic.